That top story now. The Thabo Mbeki Foundation and the Julius Nyerere Foundation will jointly host the Thabo Mbeki Africa Day annual lecture in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania ahead of Africa Day. The former South African president visited Mazimbu in Morogoro, where ANC had military bases during the struggle.
I think this is a proper tribute to the people who lie in these graves here. That statement, that is a tribute to the entire humanity, is correct. I'm very, very glad indeed. I must say thanks to the university, Mokoena University, for looking after this place. And indeed, I'm glad that we have the possibility to come and lay the wreaths here to indicate our own respect for these people who are here, but also I think for the university. Yes. Because the university plays a very critical role in the preservation of these graves and these tributes. And really I want to say thank you very much for all of that. As I was saying, this is an extraordinary story which must be told. Yes. For that humanity, so that it knows what Morogoro did, yes, what Mazimbu did in Morogoro, yes, to achieve this objective which is stated on that plaque.
Right, we're joined on the line by SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena for an update on the 15th annual Thabo Mbeki Africa Day lecture in Tanzania. It's happening tomorrow. She'll also touch on the passing of ANC stalwart Gertrude Shope. So good to see you this morning. Former President Thabo Mbeki, of course, visiting, as we saw, Morogoro yesterday ahead of Africa Day. Talk to us about the purpose of that particular visit.
Well, you know that every year there's a Thabo Mbeki annual lecture. He started this when he retired from government politics. Most of these lectures, they were delivered in South Africa, but 2 years ago they took a decision that they will visit different countries. As you know, that the Thabo Mbeki Foundation is more focused on the African continent issues and also trying to push for development of the African continent. And therefore the first lecture was in Guinea-Conakry outside the country. This time around it is here in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Tomorrow the Thabo Mbeki Foundation jointly with Julius Nyerere Foundation will be hosting this lecture. But yesterday he took a train to Morogoro in Mazimbu, where there were settlements of those who were in exile some years ago when they were fighting apartheid. He visited the graves of the liberation fighters and the children who perished or who died in exile, laying the wreath and also planting a tree. It is the very same garden of remembrance where the former South African president Kgalema Motlanthe planted a tree. We even saw that tree. It has grown so much. The same with the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, planted a tree there. The tree has grown so much, including our own Sakina Kamwendo, dedicating that tree to former President Nelson Mandela. I saw those trees, and he also planted a tree and laid a wreath. And we expect him today to meet business here in Dar es Salaam this morning at 9 South African time.
Fantastic, that's so interesting. We'll ask Sakina about it when she's back in studio, I think on Monday. The former president, this is obviously a different story, and a sad story that came out yesterday is he was close to ANC stalwart Gertrude Shope. What was the reaction from Mbeki on the passing of Mam Shope?
We have requested a short interview with him about this. You'd recall that last year when Mayor Shope turned 99, we spoke to the former president in an exclusive interview where he was paying tribute to Mam Shope, where he spoke about the kind of a leader Mam Shope was, and also what particularly the young generation within the ANC or the Congress movement can learn from her leadership. And also at that time, Mbeki spoke about a need for the fight that Mam Shope and other women waged in 1956 of the emancipation of women, saying that that dream is still far from being achieved, particularly on the continent where we have regressed. However, we saw in Namibia the election of a woman president, and also here in Tanzania you have a woman president. Only 2 women are leading countries on the continent out of 54 countries. Back home it's still a struggle, particularly within the Congress movement, for women to get into presidency and lead like anyone else who do that based on his capability. And he at that time said women must take leave from what Mam Shope did in terms of championing the rights of women, and saying that, but not only that, but to look at the type of leadership she espoused. And when you look at the Morogoro, he visited Morogoro yesterday, and I think when he received the news on arrival in Dar es Salaam from Morogoro, because when he was reading that plaque at the entrance where it's dedicated to those who have died in exile, he was very, very emotional. And some of us were even talking to say it will take another maybe 10 or 20 years for him to visit this place again. But when you look at his age, he's quite senior, and therefore this for him should be a very emotional moment.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we heard especially the ANC Women's League hoping and that they could celebrate her 100th birthday, but that was not to be, unfortunately, passing at 99. Sophie, one final question before I let you go. Very quickly, of course, it's Africa Day on Sunday, and there's going to be a message, surely, that the President is going to push forward. Any idea what the focus of this lecture will be, very quickly?
Well, the lecture is tomorrow on Africa Day. The focus will be on the development of the continent, particularly looking at the African Continental Free Trade Area. But the big question is the continental body ready for this? There has been challenges when you look at the type of leadership we've had as it relates to the African continent body, that is the AU. And therefore I think it is going to be a robust engagement challenging the weaknesses of the African Union after those reforms that were led by the Rwandan President Paul Kagame, that has since weakened the institutions and the agencies of the African Union, particularly when you look at peace and security. And I really expect a robust lecture.
All right, let's leave it there. Sophie, thank you again for updating us there. And that's obviously ahead of the lecture that former President Thabo Mbeki will be delivering in Tanzania.